Hello, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us wherever you are in the world in the shortest month of the year. It's February and it's already coming to a close. I'm your host, Christian Montoya, and I am joined by a couple awesome guests today, Pratik Shah, Brian Clark, and then Lavanya should be joining us very soon. And we're going to talk about all things Windows Cloud Security. And actually, I think I'm going to go through announcements first. Maybe Lavanya will join us by then. So let me just go over a couple announcements. If you remember in the January, we didn't have too many updates because we were just coming back from the winter holidays, the Lunar New Year, all that stuff. So we actually have a lot of stuff for you to highlight over the past month. In terms of Windows 365 device management, one really cool feature we added was when you're placing a cloud PC under review, you can actually choose the storage tier, whether it's hot, cool, cold, or archive. So that way you're in charge of your COGS. As you perform the operation, you can save money for a batch or a large amount of devices that you want to review or have that archived. Second is in the all cloud PCs list, there's a new device type filter. So you can actually choose between the product lines, which is really easy to manage if you're on frontline and shared mode, like we talked about last month. So that's really cool. And then also when it comes to device management and security, maybe we'll talk about this later in the session, but the Intune MAM on Android preview now can run with you can now be used with devices running Android 15. So please check that out. For provisioning Windows 365, we now support Japan West region in the Japan geography. So now you have both of those regions at your disposal. For Windows 365 Frontline, one really cool thing you can do now is schedule bulk reprovisioning of your Frontline Cloud PCs that are in shared mode. That way you can have your updates ready, schedule that, and then at that set time, all your devices will be reprovisioned, pick up any of the latest updates, etc. So that's super cool. And then the last piece of Frontline that we added lately was having a more precise concurrency control when using Windows 365 Frontline. So especially in dedicated mode, when you assign different groups to have Frontline Cloud PCs, you can now actually set limits to ensure that you're reserving a number of sessions per assignment. So all of that you can find at our aka.ms/W365 What's New. And then also just kind of one last announcement. We recently sent a service update for folks that are using Windows 365 in commercial. So whether that's the business offering, the enterprise offering, or the frontline offering. We recently sent some comms there to update users and folks. We're going to start transitioning users from the traditional web client that we use when we release Windows 365 to the new Windows app web client that went GA in September of last year. And so go check that out. And just in general, actually, we have a great blog that just came out by our very own Megan Grimmel for how you can stay connected on all channels, not just the What's New, but the Service Health Dashboard and all that stuff, Message Center, etc. So ak.ms/w365/IT Pro Resources. All right, sweet. So yeah, let's start today and let's go around. Maybe we'll go with Pratik and then Ryan. If you can introduce yourself, I think you have joined before, but just as a reminder for the audience today.
Absolutely. Hopefully, folks are able to hear me okay. My name is Pratik Shah, and I'm excited to be here. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to all the questions. Just a little bit more about me. I lead security, compliance, identity, and privacy for Windows 365, Azure Virtual Desktop, and holistically a Windows in the Cloud solution. I have been at Microsoft this is going to be my 4th year. And before Microsoft, I was at Citrix, Symantec, McAfee, Dell, some of the other cybersecurity companies. Excited to be here.
Awesome, thanks. and then Ryan.
Great. Yeah, I'm Ryan Clark. Again, also excited to be here. Pratik and I work together. I focus on data security and recently am taking over some identity work. So my big focus is data security and it has been for the past couple of years. I've been with Microsoft. It was 14 years 2 days ago. And yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. I mean, I'm also selfishly excited that you're on the call, Ryan, because you're my SoCal buddy down here.
Yeah,
Oh, we got a
yo.
California crew right now. That's
Right?
fun.
Yeah, all three of us. Yeah.
Love it, love it. Okay, so Lavanya will be joining us soon. But we already have a question, so let's just jump in. So the question is, what's the latest on Intune MAM, the mobile application management, with the Windows app or remote desktop app? So just what's the latest there?
I'll take a stab at that, if that's okay. I think Christian covered a little bit about what's new with MAM around Android. So that's Android for MAM is in the preview state. Feel free to try it out. Give us a lot of feedback. It's exciting times, specifically with the updates in the Android on the Windows app for Android. And what's already in the general availability is Windows app for iOS, and that essentially brings in the capability for both the ability for organizations to do something we call as app protection policies or app configuration policies, and similar experience will be provided on Android, iOS, Android, and the following sort of operating systems. The way we can produce Windows app as an SDK on the other operating systems. The app protection policy allows this amazing ability for creating more device-based security. Now you're looking at device posture checks, operating system checks, the OS version checks, Windows app checks. If there is an AV or an anti-malware not present, how do you restrict that access? If the firewall is turned off, how do you restrict access to cloud PCs? So there's a lot of security posture assessment that you can put in right in front, almost in a very clear zero trust fashion, so that you can apply the principles of zero trust right out of the bat. When it comes to app configuration policy, which is another set of policies that you can again use for MAM, Windows app with MAM, is the ability for doing the redirection based control. So now, if there are a set of users that you would want to restrict the level of data protection with level of data protection, data security, example, if you wanted to restrict a USB IO, you wanted to restrict clipboard protection, which is one of the more popular use cases, or printer redirections. You can actually do that based on certain devices, based on the user, and add those configuration policies for redirection-based control such that you can have a more clear boundary with regards to what do you allow in for users' access if there was a very secure resource that you were about to provide within the cloud PC.
So also, I think historically, MAM has only ever been available on the mobile platforms. It's called mobile application management. So iOS platform, I guess iOS, iPadOS platform, and then Android platform. Do you know if that's still the case? Because I know that we have lots of, a majority of our Windows app users come on Windows. I didn't know if there's anything else that Intune was doing to expand that.
So the roadmap has the investments for Windows app on Windows. Mobile is absolutely correct, Christian, you mentioned, which is where we started our journey with mobile app protection, because that's how the technology was provided. We have, obviously, I think a lot of you are aware, very strong integration with Intune. Intune is our control plane. So that the experience for the existing devices which have physical endpoint protection, or the policies that can be applied for the existing physical fleet of devices, can be translated with the same exact experience for some of the virtual devices, cloud PCs, cloud VMs, and so forth. And so the follow-up, as a fast follow-up after the mobile devices, we are enabling Windows app on Windows, which includes pretty much a similar experience with obviously some of the other sort of differences, right? Because we're talking Windows app, Windows environment. So the ability for absolute, in a way, jailbreak broken device, the way that is prevalent in the mobile devices, or rooted device for that matter. The detection and posture of those kind of devices is a lot more prevalent in the mobile device world. However, when it comes to Windows app on Windows, there's a little difference in terms of some of the policies being enhanced, just like the way we have for typical Windows management with Intune, and some of the other policies, again, perfectly splitted in a similar experience for an application protection management, which again provides posture assessment of that Windows device, and as well as application configuration, which provides the Windows app on Windows with the redirection-based policies that we can use with MAM.
Got it. So doing a slight pivot here, I know that one of the controls, I forget if it's iOS or Android on MAM, is the whole screen capture protection, or preventing the screen assistant to actually take screenshots. And so my question maybe to Ryan is, how does that interrelate with the screen capture protection we have just generally in AVD and Windows 365?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. So screen capture protection, the way we've designed it, you can enable it for now a host of different platforms: iOS, Android, Windows OS, Mac OS, depending on what you use. If you use MAM or if you use the settings catalog through Intune, it'll cover different platforms. Screen capture protection disables the ability to take screenshots of sensitive information and things like that, so that you help prevent data leakage.
And then does it end up like blocking the capture, or is it just like whatever, if you ever do a screenshot, whatever is showing up IDP session just gets, blanked out or blacked out or something?
Yeah, so at this point, it just blocks the capability of doing the screen capture. There is some work we're doing on the roadmap that will help prevent or kind of just blur out, black out different, just black it out, if you will. But yeah, as of right now, it just negates the screen capturing capability.
The action. Got it.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, the actions itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit of that, the appropriate way we do that is we redact, that Ryan was explaining, redact that portion of that screen, such that the screen capture or even a screen scraper is rendered ineffective.
Awesome. All right, cool. So we have a couple more questions that came in, but also Lavanya, I want to have you introduce yourself. I think again you've joined us before. You're breaking up the California crew, which is fine. We love California and Washington. So if you want to give a brief intro of yourself and what you work on within security on our team.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me over, Christian. And hello to everyone. My name is Lavanya. I'm a principal product manager on the security team for Windows Cloud. I primarily work on two of the pillars, secure access and secure data. So I do work with Ryan on all the display protection and all that stuff. And as part of secure access, I did kind of chime in terms of the questions were around like, hey, what is our functionality on Windows and Android and iOS? And I'm working on something which is going to go completely OS agnostic. So yes, please do reach out. Super excited of bringing secure access for everyone.
Yeah, it's actually a great point. The whole reason of having this Windows Cloud Security as a topic for today is because y'all, Christian Brinkoff had you on an episode that released, I think, at the very beginning of the month. So hopefully everyone that's listening, hopefully you had some questions, or you're listening now and then maybe afterwards you go and watch that, all the above. We want to make sure we can get your questions answered. So for previous AMAs, but also again the episode about Windows Cloud Security, you can go to ak.ms/Windows in the cloud. All right, back to the questions. Pratik, I think you mentioned this. Can we use MAM to block jailbroken devices, or I guess probably block access to Windows app when you're coming
Yes,
to a jailbroken device?
Yes.
correct. We can. It's a short answer. So
Yeah, isn't just like a toggle in the thing? It's like
yes.
prevent jailbroken. Got it. Nailed
Yeah.
it.
I'll expand a little bit. It comes in with all the goodness where we are able to establish, we're able to leverage the SDK. So on mobile devices, one of those very typical use that a lot of BYOD for that matter, or even corporate owned devices come in with is sometimes they just don't update their OS. Sometimes they don't know that their device is either rooted or jailbroken or has an older version, has mobile threat defense either running or not running. There's a sort of amount of a spectrum of parameters that go through in terms of what mobile defense involves. And the jailbroken devices, in a sense, the similar translation in future for that that on the Windows app on Windows itself is also something that we'll be able to protect against. So if the device is in some way or form tampered on the Windows device itself, because of the Windows app SDK that we are able to leverage with MAM, we are going to be able to easily detect that and block, restrict. The more important thing is restrict access so that we can apply a holistic corporate policy and compliance that the organizations can use.
Perfect. And I
Think of
think
it as
go
device
ahead.
posture check. Like think of it as you're checking the posture of a device before it is trying to connect. So you're making sure you're up leveling and getting that device to your standard, the organization standard, and before that you're not allowing access. That's what it is.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of that, the next question is related to posture tracking on Windows. Well, I guess maybe not posture tracking per se, but can we require that BYOD Windows devices already be up to date on the latest version of Windows or on X, version of Windows or greater?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Same policy. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I love when we have one set of rules and we just put it everywhere and it's super easy. And we just say, go to Android, go to Windows. So awesome. Love the work that we're doing here. I think there's one last question here when it comes to MAM. And the question is, I'm assuming there are grace periods. Are those customizable or pre-configured? I guess probably in terms of blocking access or allowing access for X amount of hours or days before it actually blocks you. Do you know about that?
I'll clarify this question a little bit. Grace periods is a little confusing. Christian, do you understand or have a little bit more inference of what that grace period mean?
I don't. If whoever asked the question, if you could follow up on that. My assumption is if it detects you're out of policy, can you still access and connect the resources for X amount of hours or days before you get hard blocked? That would be my assumption. I'm not completely
Got
sure.
it. If we go with that assumption until we get clarity on the question, which will be more appropriate. But in a sense, there is not a counter or TTL, like a time to live in any census. The policies are supposed to be a proper secure access policy with regards to posture checks and block, redirection checks on that specific device type, and then block. And so there is no specific grace period from a time period where the access is restricted in terms of the policy enabled to the access provided to the resource.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So for whoever asked that question, if you can, confirm, clarify if what we assumed was correct, or correct us so we can more thoroughly, correctly answer your question. So I want to pivot a little bit away. We've been talking about sort of the client side posture checking, security in terms of this end-to-end scenario. Lavanya, you mentioned something that was very interesting, was more of a, client agnostic, so probably more server-side protections that we are working on. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So what you're looking at and what we were talking about is all the client-side security. So we bucket that as, client-side security. So where you're basically installing Intune MAM onto your physical device, and then you're setting those policies. Now think about it like, yes, you said this was great when we're having these functionalities, but think of it like for every OS, we are needing to ship iOS specific solution, Android specific solution, and you have customers asking us, when is Windows for MAM coming, or MAM for Windows coming? So you have all these delays from our side in terms of shipping each individual functionality specific to an OS. So what we are doing is we're saying like, okay, forget about the OS that you have, as long as you are setting controls on the server, and any device that is actually connecting, you can still apply similar conditional policies. And those conditional policies can pivot on three conditions: user groups, device, and network. So you can have any kind of parameters set. So for example, you can have, if Christian logs in from an unmanaged device, from a insecure network, I do not want you to have clipboard redirection, which means you can copy from your cloud PC or a cloud VM to your physical device. So we can set those policies, and that's the work that we are working, which is granular redirection control, and we're leveraging Entra for building those conditional access policies.
Got it. So basically, I mean, all of our clients know how to listen to an RDP property. So everybody's just saying like, well, how about we make those a little bit more dynamic based off of Entra ID stuff, and then the file/connections update for that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And RDP properties are more like client. So they would get saved onto an RDP file on your local client. But what we are talking about is on the server. So enforcement of these redirection controls are actually happening or will happen at the server side.
Yeah. So it's not static.
Yeah.
But it's like the server can actually override based off of the different enforcement mechanisms.
Yes, depending on what you configure. The other point that I do want to add is, yes, client-side security is robust for sure, but always, we are all security professionals. We're always going to think about like, okay, what is it that can break? So you could be an admin on, on the device. A malicious user can be an admin on the device. So there's just no way to get around that. So that's why the server side, when an IT admin, configures those policies, you're basically getting around that as well. So it's more robust.
Awesome. Defense in depth.
Let's
do it. All right. Yeah, that was awesome. I learned a little bit in that too. So this is great. A question from X. We use Credential Guard with our physical PCs. Is that possible with Windows 365 too? Ryan, do you know? Is this something you've worked with? I know there's Credential Guard. There's also like Remote Credential Guard. I forget the difference between the technologies.
Are you just a mic check? Yes, you're able to hear me. Okay, I'll try to take this question. If that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So yes, the short answer is you can use Credential Guard on Windows 365 cloud PCs. There are a few considerations to think through. And by the way, let me actually say, so the short answer is yes. And then there is a how part. You can enable Credential Guard essentially through, similar. You can go to the endpoint admin center. You can essentially create profiles with Windows 10 or later. You can set the Credential Guard and with UEFI lock, and then assign it to Windows 365 Cloud PC. Or you can essentially do that through GPOs as well. So that's that. The caveat or the consideration that I was talking about was more in line with some of the versions that we should keep in mind with Windows 11 Enterprise or Windows 10 Enterprise. There is, I think, a certain one version of 1607 or later, which can support Credential Guard. And the important caveat that I mentioned in the how part, the VBS, which is the virtualization-based security, or the hypervisor HVCI. So hypervisor protected code integrity should be enabled along with the VTPM2, which is the secure boot capability, so as to apply the Credential Guard.
And then can you remind me, I feel like we had this weird interplay of the did you say HVCI, the code integrity, and then also if you're trying to use nested virtualization, like, was it you can sort of choose one or the other? Am I recalling that correctly?
That is correct, and that was only due to sort of a stopgap initially that we had. I can get back on more details specifically on that, but we had a small phase where we wanted to say it is not fully supported due to some of the issues that were causing due to nested or double virtualization.
Yeah, and I think, and also maybe as part of the follow-up, I think we said the nested virtualization we only supported on 8 vCPUs or higher, so that'd be our 8 vCPU or 60 vCPU offering, I believe.
I believe
You remember?
that's a thing. There's always a little bit of a performance implication, and even with Azure Virtual Desktop, whenever we used to have this question, we used to try and be very aware due to nested virtualization causing performance issues, particularly for multi-session and so forth. And so we really didn't want to support it fully, specifically due to performance issues, because we don't know. I mean, if it is a lower skewed VM, like a VTL, that we don't know if it is just 2 vCPUs and so forth. So slightly similar in case of Windows 365 cloud PCs. In order to make sure that the performance is higher quality, the support needs to be enabled, particularly with higher vCPUs. Yes.
Got it. Okay. There was one question. Let's see. One question that came in the chat: what features are natively in Windows 365 to protect organizational data, and where do we need to consider other solutions, like Microsoft Defender or other, to ensure we have robust data protection in place?
Christian, your call. Either Ryan or Lavanya can take this, and we can all chime in.
Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Ryan, you want to go?
Yeah. I'll give a list of a couple. There's, I mean, we could probably take up the rest of the call listing all the features that are available or coming available, right? One that I'm pretty excited about or happy that we have is the DLP functionality. That's kind of utilized through Purview. Another Purview plug I'll give is through the customer managed key. This provides your encryption for your data at rest. That's now generally available for Windows 365 and AVD. Protecting your data in that way using encryption. Those are two of my babies there. Everything else that comes pre-packaged. Lavanya, you want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah. So one thing what you want to remember of the Windows Cloud security, it's not in a silo. We're actually already leveraging what is there in Defender. We're plugged in. So I do want folks to understand, it's not a silo where you just have Windows and then you have all these functionality. They're already integrating with the other security products of Microsoft. So Purview, Defender, Entra, like what, Secure Access, which is what I was talking about. So do remember that. So it's not one or the other. You're actually getting everything when you're choosing Windows Cloud Security. And to kind of add on to, what Ryan mentioned, there are different areas of protecting your data. So you're talking about protecting data in terms of screen capture protection and watermarking, where you're deterring the consumer or the user to basically go and, capture screens and steal data. But there are other functionality which are physically actually also, protecting data, where you're having customer managed keys. And then you have other functionalities further where if you have a user going and navigating and accessing records and all that, you have forensic evidence where we're actually going and taking the logs and sniffing through those logs and saying, hey, this particular user logged in at this time and went in and logged and tried to access health records when that user should not have. So building on, data protection, you have all these. And then you also have input and display protection, which is something that we're working on as well. So think about it from, a physical device. So we're not really protecting just your cloud PCs and cloud VMs, but we are now extended that circle of trust, or of how we are kind of looking at it, we've also included the physical devices. So how do we enable the physical device to be protected and make sure that whatever is coming out of that physical device is also secure? And similarly, from the other end, where you have in display coming from a cloud PC onto your physical device, how do I protect that? So you're not just thinking about cloud PCs and Windows Cloud, but you've now extended that. And because we do have a lot of devices that are trying to connect, you have Windows 365 Link, you have future laptops coming in and all that. So how are we protecting that whole realm? So yeah, data, like Brian said, we'll have the whole day to kind of talk about all the features, but I wanted to kind of provide that nutshell and the thinking behind how we're building that whole pillar.
Yeah, and one thing that was interesting. So, because Ryan, you mentioned a couple of the features of Purview, and I wanted to get your take on it. You're mentioning customer key and DLP. Where does the customer lockbox come into the picture? Is that like actually a security feature, or is that more of like for customers to have better compliance? Like, where does that come in?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Similar to how customer managed key or Purview customer key, which is its official name, where it puts the keys in the customer's hands, right? Your encryption keys. Customer lockbox works in a similar way, where it's the customer is allowing permission if they have troubleshooting needs or anything like that from Microsoft. They can grant permission to a Microsoft employee to help manage their data in a certain window. There's a lot of controls there, kind of giving them a hall pass, if you will, to help manage those any troubleshooting inquiries. There's probably other examples, but that's what Customer Lockbox does. So it puts that that management back in the customer's hands, so they're trusting themselves, right, with that gate, if you will.
Got it. So it's basically for them to kind of have the final, basically unlocking that for if there's a support case or
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's a little bit more process based, but it still provides better.
It's more in the device trust the area. Yes, it's definitely still a security feature, but when it comes to trusting your security estate and things like that from a customer perspective.
Cool. One last question on I was thinking of the encryption and data at rest. So you're talking about the customer key solution. So what's the default if customers don't use customer key?
Yeah. So if by default Microsoft Managed Key is the encryption that's taking place, it's encrypted using Azure, and it's kind of happening on the back end. It's happening by default. To take that encryption and manage those encryption keys on your own from the customer perspective, there is you can go into Intune, walk through a couple steps, and enable the Purview customer key. And you can use your own Azure Key Vault subscription and manage your keys in that way. But yes, by default, Microsoft Managed Key is managing that encryption. But either way, it's encrypted.
Yeah. Exactly. And then where do you see like maybe you're in that transition? Like where do you see if it was a Microsoft Managed Key or a customer managed key for that encryption?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Where would you see which key is being used for the encryption, whether it's the Microsoft managed or customer managed?
Yeah. There's a few different views in Intune, different encryption. There's the encryption report. There's also each device. When you click on the device and drill down, it'll say. But in Intune, we designed a page that will show you across your entire estate. Say you have 10,000 cloud PCs. There's a quick and easy graph. It says like, hey, these 10 PCs are under Microsoft Managed Key, and the remainder are on customer Purview Managed Key. And you click the encryption button to switch those remaining 10. There's just a simple graph that says that this is your kind of your status. But then the encryption report will tell you, hey, these are, I believe the acronym is just MMK for Microsoft Managed Key in the encryption report, or Purview Customer Key, so PCK, in that encryption report. We'll tell you which one it's managed under.
Gotta love our acronyms. Cool.
Yeah, right. and they're always changing, which is why I keep saying Customer Managed Key. That was the old nomenclature. But yeah, it's Purview Customer Key is the proper terminology now for that key management.
Okay, cool. Also, sorry about my screen. It keeps, whatever. Okay, we're gonna leave it. It just keeps jumping in and out. Has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
It's a director. It zooms in and zooms out.
My goodness. Cool.
It's trying to your awesome caps that you have at the back.
Yeah.
I was like, gotta show them off.
Yeah.
Gotta use this built-in bookcase for something, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. We have a question. Let's see. What does the user see when they encounter something like screen capture protection? Do they just think their PC isn't working properly?
That's a good question. There's a couple routes. So if you are logged into a cloud PC with screen capture protection enabled, it's only supported on a handful of our platforms. If you're logging in from a platform that doesn't support it, you'll get an error message that says, "Hey, screen capture protection is enabled. We don't support it on let's say web, for instance." So it'll tell you to log in with an approved client. When you're actually logged into your cloud PC and you're attempting to take a screenshot, it'll just be a black image. So it not necessarily kind of throw up an error that says, "Hey, you can't do that." It's just a black image that shows up in your snipping tool.
Yeah, and maybe the question was maybe the inverse of, if you are coming from like you said, a platform or a client that knows how to handle screen capture protection, it's going to be enforced. Is there any indication to the user before they take the screenshot, like, by the way, you can have fun, it's not gonna work? Right. Is there any like prior notification or like status indication giving the user that before they attempt and see just an empty screenshot?
No, there's not. Sorry, short answer. No.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, it seemed like there's a requirement in that question, like, hey, I want to know what are all the functionalities that are enabled and disabled for me to understand. There is work actually on the end user experience, like in terms of like, what are the redirections that are enabled and what are the other functionalities that are set. There's work going on, but yes, the short answer today is no, but coming, like, we're working on that.
Because I think with the, like what you mentioned, well, actually what we all talked about today, either the client side or server side enforcement, I think having that extra visibility so the user knows what to expect. I think that'll be down the road when we get to. I feel like the first part is let's get it to work, and then I mean, today even IT admins are always creating user guides, or they have help desk flow. So hopefully, if it's weird for the user, they at least have a very quick response of, "Oh, you're in this group, therefore this is your behavior." But I'm sure long term it would be super awesome to see like what a user can expect. So like even cuts out that support cycle.
And the exam. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lavanya.
No, I was just trying to add, like, also it would be interesting for customers to understand what is their security posture looking like. Like, have I enabled everything? And that's where, we're also working with Security Copilot to kind of just bring in all those, entities.
We're going the same place. Nice.
Oh, great.
Go ahead. Keep going. I like it.
Great minds think alike. So we're working on all that, like anticipating what customers are looking for in terms of, and how do I enable and this sort of thing. So there's a lot of Security Copilot integration as well, but I'll let Ryan kind of expand.
No, absolutely. I love it. That's exactly where I was going. First of all, the notification piece, using Windows 11 notifications, right? Hey, you attempted to take a screen capture and this we're not doing that, right? Obviously, there's legal verbiage that would happen there, but yeah, from a security admin perspective, having that admin saying, "Hey, I have," again, I'll go with my number I used earlier, 10,000 cloud PCs, and I'd love to verify my security posture across all 10,000. And it's like, hey, 900 of these could be a little more secure if you're enabling security baselines or screen capture protection, and using Copilot to go, hey, some of these users have been taking screenshots, right? Even something like that, potentially of financial information, would you may want to enable that across your entire estate. Yeah, using Security Copilot and to infer what types of security measures you may be using, whether you're in healthcare or financial institution, sniffing out those types of nefarious actions and then offering you to enable XYZ features to make you more secure.
And Lavanya, you mentioned something interesting with Security Copilot, and I was just hoping to educate me if you have the info. A long time ago, we had things in Intune and Defender for security score and productivity score. Do those still exist, or like where do you mentioned Security Copilot will help? We want to
Yeah.
help people be secure. So what sort of visibility is there today that you're aware of? And then I don't know if there's anything else you want to share about our
Sure.
investments in Security Copilot.
Yeah, so there are two things. One is you mentioned like cloud security posture management, right? We have a whole org for that, which is all this Microsoft Defender, where you're actually having cloud applications, and then you're going to Microsoft Defender for cloud, which will tell you like what is your posture management for your cloud applications, and then what is the threat detection and all that stuff, right? So we're trying to bring a slice of that to Windows Cloud. Again, this is futuristic, how we are thinking about it. So in terms of like, let's say there are controls that you've forgotten to enable. So let's say you have server-side redirection control, and then you have not enabled, let's say, RDP properties or not enabled Intune MAM. And then we sense that there's a place that you need to go in. So there's physically you need to go and, enable these redirections, or for the secure data pillar and so on. So that's one side of things. The second side where Security Copilot comes is we like peer teams are also working in terms of the admin experience, like how do we provision, and they're like integrating with Copilot to kind of bring in an easier way of how customers can go and enable that. On the security side, you can query and you can understand what are the VMs where certain, like what Ryan mentioned, security baselines have not been enabled, etc., etc. You can now use Security Copilot to go and enable those as well. So it's not really an admin experience, but it is an overlay of security and IT admin. So security IT admin experiences is what we are working on with respect to the Security Copilot integration. Ryan, please do add, please chime in if I've missed something on the.
Yeah, you nailed it. My only other suggestion, but you started talking about redirections before I was like, oh yeah, clipboard redirections, thing like that. But yeah, great job. I think you did a great answer.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see. We have 15 minutes left, which is great. We have another question come in to the chat. I read that Windows 10 devices can run Windows 11 on their cloud PCs. Is that right? Do the Windows 10 devices have to support TPM 2.0 themselves to do that?
I can take that. Actually, the first part of the question is something that, Christian, you've worked on from the provisioning policy for a number of years, so you're almost an expert on that one. The short answer is yes, and that correct, Christian. And the short answer for the first part is yes, because that's exactly how the Windows 11 experience is enhanced. It's optimized even further in the Windows 365 cloud PCs. That is great, because now if it is a PC that has not been refreshed, or if it is one of those older bring your own device PCs with Windows 10, the ability to still get the Windows 11 experience with Windows 365 cloud PCs is very much there. So the answer is yes to that. The second part is can Windows 10, if I'm capturing this correctly, does Windows 10 device need to have a TPM to make sure that the access is available to cloud PC, correct? And the answer to that is no. The organizations do not need to mandate However, it is recommended to have a TPM2 support on the native, on the local device. The ability for Windows 365 Cloud PC to have the VTPM supported in the Cloud PC is really the rationale behind you not needing to have a TPM support as a mandate on the local device.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, what you mentioned is absolutely correct. That I think it was what Windows 365 went GA in July of 21, and then starting September of 21,
Yeah.
we created any new VMs were had to have with the TPM enabled. I think mostly because Windows 10 was a little weird at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically since the start, all cloud PCs have the VTPM enabled. Yeah.
And then
Do you?
just to add what Christian you mentioned, that's the flexibility, right? To the first part of the question when you asked about can a Windows 10 device have the Windows 11 experience in the Windows 365 Cloud PC? And really, that's a little bit of that flexibility and granularity that Windows 365 Cloud PC enjoys, because Windows 11 can be brought in also with a custom image or a gallery image. And in that case, the experience for Windows 11, like the newness, or if the organization wants to provide sort of the latest versions, the latest OS patch, and so forth, they can be optimized and provided on the Cloud PC.
Yeah, and I think what I want to highlight here, so basically, yes, you can connect from Windows 10 to, a cloud PC, so running Windows 11. We do have our extended support updates, ESU offerings, because Windows 10 will be going out of, I think, regular support. I think that's this fall. I believe it's this fall, September, October 25. And so we actually do have, I don't know if we have any links available for it right now, but we do have the ESU offerings. So if you are connecting from a physical Windows 10 device to your Windows 11 Cloud PC, then you actually, and you, therefore, it means you have a Windows 365 license, you get the ESU for free. And then there's a separate one for Azure Virtual Desktop. So yeah, want to call that out. We'll probably provide more information or links to the ESU afterwards, especially if anyone is looking for that. But we do have that available to incentivize you to, even if you are running physical Windows 10 devices, to get your workloads running on Windows 11 cloud PCs.
I just want to give another selfish plug. This is the benefit of us developing these security features on the server, right? Because they're, no matter what device you're logging in from, you're still getting all those protections. Yeah, team high five, right?
Cool.
I think that was very powerful. It was so simply stated, but honestly, that's really been the theme. When if I can take that mic for a second, Christian,
and the torch over.
when we go talk to tons of enterprise customers in the EBCs, in the trade shows and conferences, Windows 365 Cloud PC is almost perceived as a secured device, literally secured out of the box. It provides all the necessary defaults, plugs, blocking RDP ports, potentially a few more coming in with regards to blocking the existing sort of design that has been there behind SFI, Secure Future Initiative. Because at Microsoft, we are really serious about how we secure the device, the experience out of the box, so that there is, first off, minimalistic configuration, and more of what Ryan said, which is powerful, because now if the security is already in the cloud, then you need to already do less on the device, and you need to worry less, with more turnkey ability to have secure design and secure default. So holistically, it's just a win. It is an experience that we provide in the cloud, but it turns out that it's one of the more secured way of getting your apps, getting the entire experience with not just Teams and Outlook, but any of the other apps as well on the web and SaaS.
And just one last detail on the Windows 10 and VTPM. that I want to highlight is if you're going to use like Windows Hello and whatnot to log in from your Windows 10 physical device to Windows 11 cloud PC, you will need to do the enrollment locally with VTPM, because that's where your fingerprint, PIN, facial recognition, that's where that gets registered. And then when you connect to your cloud PC, whether it's through the Enter ID phish resistant auth, whether it's when you're in your cloud PC hitting an elevated, again, phish resistant prompt when you're in your session, when you're in your cloud PC, with the WebAuthn redirection, you then get to use your local, biometrics to complete those challenges using the WebAuthn redirection. So we would all advocate that you should use VTPM wherever you can. And yeah, especially because Windows Hello is very powerful, especially connecting Windows to your cloud PC. Okay, we have one last question, and then we'll sort of do a wrap up around the table, tips and tricks. So, last question. I believe that users aren't admins on their cloud PCs. Is that correct? How do you handle JIT elevation or similar scenarios? So I can tackle the first part because I know this one very well.
Go for the first part, and I think Ryan would be great at handling this or explaining the second one. There is some JIT elevation that we have fully supported with customer logbox and so forth. But
awesome.
Please
yeah, and then JIT elevation, just for folks listening, that's the just-in-time elevation. So the first part of the question, are users admins on their cloud PCs? So that is configurable. If you sign up, like if you're brand new to the product, whether it's the business product or the enterprise or frontline products, the default, if you just immediately create a cloud PC, is no, they would be standard users. However, with the user settings option that applies to enterprise and frontline and dedicated, frontline mode and dedicated, you can have users be admins on machines. And then that doesn't apply for frontline and shared mode. Frontline and shared mode users are always standard users. So the short answer is they're not always. Default is no, but it is configurable.
Yeah. So on top of that, the JIT elevation, again, just in time, for troubleshooting and things like that, a customer would use customer lockbox to allow any permissions or things like that to, when it comes to troubleshooting any issues. So the way that works is, again, it's kind of like a gate, right? You can allow a Microsoft admin a certain period of time to come in and do a little bit of investigation to only certain aspects of the cloud PC if you're having trouble issues in that way. Yeah.
And Ryan, do you know if we, because recently Intune released their EPM, it's something privilege management. I know that that's sometimes used for standard users to be able to get just-in-time elevation to install apps on their local device. Do you know if we also support the Intune EPM feature? I just don't know, and we can always come back.
Yeah, that's not off the top of my head. I don't know if we support that yet. I don't know if Pratik or Lavanya know of that one.
No, Ryan is right. We don't support it at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. And just because that one's a little bit more in the regular user flow.
Yeah.
For the local admins, if you, the other way, if you want someone to be local admin, the way the user setting works is, again, it's just like a provisioning policy where you assign it to a group of users. So user settings, you assign to a group of users. Maybe there's a delay of a couple minutes, but then when the user logs back out and logs back into the cloud PC, that's, we have the signals, and then that's when the change applies. So maybe that's one way to do it, in the meantime. But that's an option.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that was the last question for today. What I love doing is going around the table, tips and tricks, what you want to re-emphasize or what you want people to try out within our product to either give feedback or just a new experience. So we'll do Pratik, Ryan, and then Lavanya.
Okay, cool. I'd like to emphasize two things, more importantly, as we summarize today's meeting. And the two things are, number one, Lavanya had touched upon this really effectively, where if you start thinking about Microsoft security ecosystem, I mean, it's massive. It's Defender, Purview, Sentinel. It has Intune, endpoint security, cloud defense, ton of other proxy-based technologies, including global secure access and so forth. What we've done as Windows Cloud is we really amalgamated all the goodness coming in from the holistic Microsoft security ecosystem, integrated and leveraged some of those technologies so that the experience on the local device is exactly as secured, maybe even more secured on a cloud PC. And within that, there is a lot of turnkey SFI based secure components out of the box. When Christian talked a little bit about provisioned based on certain set of users, the ability for the organizations to get the secure experience right out of the bat with a secure sort of secure design, secure default is an amazing experience. And that's why it stands out. And to Ryan's point, that's the second point, where there is a cloud component which is already so secure that you're able to just be at more peace as an organization when you are leveraging the goodness of cloud PCs, more specifically as we talk about, and so that the policies are directly translated to cloud PCs. It's just an amazing secure out of the box experience.
Yeah,
Ryan?
that's awesome. To kind of chime in on top of that is one thing I love about this team and the greater Windows Cloud team is that we're not only customer first, but we're security first. We're designing things with security in mind to the best of our ability, right? But also trying to how does a customer look at these security features? And we want to get out of the way. So we want to get out of the customer's way, right? So we want those security features to just happen, to be there, always protecting their data, protecting all their resources, right? So developing these features in a way that you don't have to flip too many switches or configure all different types of security settings. That's our big focus, is even if there are security settings out there that it feels like there's way too many clicks to turn this on, or hey, should these items be turned on by default? We're looking at all those things and doing everything we can to make that it's not flashy for customers, right? It's just happening. So you're always secure. So that's a, I guess, little celebration, but and not really a tip or a trick.
I like it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Lavanya, wrap us up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to wrap. It's hard to follow Pratik and Ryan. So all I want to say is, there are great minds at work, and yes, we are customer focused and security first. I do want to kind of shout out and let the whoever is watching that we are all accessible. So as we build these features, do reach out to us and help us understand what are the requirements that you're looking for, because at the end of the day, we want to build something that you would adopt and you would use. So yes, so we're all reachable. We're all, I'm sure we're all on LinkedIn, and I'm sure there are ways to reach us. So that's what I would plug in. So great minds, great work, and we're all reachable and approachable as well.
Yeah, security is non-negotiable. So if you need it, we want to hear it. So awesome. Such a great time, such a great privilege to have all you here. So thank you again, Pratik, Ryan, Lavanya. Visit us for folks listening. We have our AMA again next month, aka.ms/AMA/Windows 365. And then also next week, it's very super awesome. I think it's next week. We have our aka.ms/technical takeoff. We have our technical takeoff. In previous years, it was the month right after Ignite. We wanted to get more space. There's a lot of awesome content from across Windows, Intune, and then AVD and Windows 365. So you can also look at ak.ms/Windows at Tech Takeoff. Please join us. A lot of great content from across Microsoft, also some other folks in our team. Lots of learnings there, and you can have even more questions for the following AMA. So again, thank you, everyone. Have a great day wherever you're coming from, and yeah. Have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you.